clear this is a full-scale invasion.
Rubber bullets, helicopters, armored vehicles.
You are tuning into Revolution News Link, linking information, experience, revolutionaries, and making it mainstream. I'm your guy, John Tell. Please hit the like button and share this stream. Follow us on all our platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Spotify. Donate to us through Venmo or Cash App. Let's get started. A 53-year-old Edgewood man killed by Harford County deputies in Maryland during an April confrontation in Forest Hill was holding a cane when deputies opened fire, fatally shooting him, authorities said on Thursday. Let me go over to the footage.
Cane! It's a cane! It's a cane! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up! Hands up!
Look at this.
Doesn't matter. Hands up!
Look at this.
Hands up!
I'm not a.
Come up here and pull the door open. Come up here and pull the door open. Hands up!
Fuck you.
Stop it away! Shots fired! Shots fired! He's trying to run me over.
So the footage was made public when the Independent Investigations Division of the Maryland Attorney General's office released nearly 23 minutes of footage from body-worn and dashboard cameras of deputies involved in the April 23rd shooting. Footage released Thursday, which runs about 22 minutes and 45 seconds. This is not the only footage. We do have footage that the Young Turks did also reveal as well.
Agent says an investigation of police has begun.
Still got a rifle. Stand by.
And if you heard in the beginning of the video, they did say that he had a cane. Deputies were handling a call about a suicidal person with access to firearms about 4 p.m. April 23rd at a shopping center on Rock Spring Road, where they found Fowler, who was ordered out of his pickup at gunpoint. Instead of getting out of the truck, the footage shows the backing into a police SUV and peeling out, even as Sergeant Bradford Seaves opens fire at the pickup's tires. The footage later shows deputies with guns drawn surrounding Fowler's pickup in a nearby parking lot. Deputies can be heard speaking with him for several minutes before the sergeant points out that the 53-year-old is reaching for something, which he quickly realizes is a cane. He says, quote, he's reaching down and it's a cane, it's a cane, it's a cane, it's a cane. Somebody can be heard shouting at near the 11-minute, 30-second mark, moments before a lone gunshot can be heard, following by several more. Seconds later, the sergeant shouts, cease fire. The second perspective, this one from body-worn camera of Corporal Christopher Maddox, shows Maddox standing significantly farther away from the pickup, saying he's got a gun. Maddox can be heard shouting before he opens fire. Shots fired, dispatch, shots fired, suspects down. He's still got a rifle, stand by. Another angle from a dashboard camera appears to show the suspect gesturing towards deputies or pointing an object at them before the shooting. It is unclear based on the footage whether deputies could clearly identify the object he was holding. Afterwards, deputies approach him to handcuff him and give him first aid as he lies face down on the pavement with a cane lying on the ground nearby. Peisinger, the state's attorney, announced June 29th that he would not pursue charges for the deputies after reviewing evidence, including footage and witness interviews. Peisinger said he found the use of force necessary and proportional. He categorized the suspect's death as suicide by law enforcement. Attorney Carrie Hansel, who represents Favre's family, called the shooting a clear failure of training on the part of the sheriff's office, saying deputies did not use a less lethal option. Hansel said there is no evidence that Favre had a gun and noted that the 53-year-old used a cane due to medical issues. He said Favre's family is calling for change and they're ready to push for it in the courtroom. The video is among the evidence a judge ordered from Harford County Sheriff's Office to hand over April 23rd in response to a court order sought by Maryland Attorney General Brian Frosh, who accused the agency of interfering with the state's independent investigation into Favre's death. The legal back and forth stemmed from Harford County Sheriff Jeff Galler's initial refusal to produce the video, which he invited investigators to review at his agency's headquarters instead. The court sided with Frosh and Galler did not appeal. Sheriff Galler said Thursday that the internal investigation into the shooting is ongoing. He criticized the Attorney General's office for releasing selectively chosen videos, saying deputies recovered 2 rifles and a shotgun from the vehicle. He declined to say where the guns were found and if they were immediately accessible to the victim suspect, whom he said was prohibited from possessing firearms. Mr. Favre intended to die in a suicide by cop, according to the police. The sheriff said his deputies feared for their safety during the incident, saying that Favre had an aggressive shooting stance when he held the cane at deputies after ignoring their commands. When asked whether less lethal options were available to deputies, Galler said that his agency is equipped with them, but said that the incident escalated too quickly for deputies to make use of those options. The IID, which was formed in response to 2021 police reforms, is charged with investigating all civilian deaths at the hands of law enforcement. It said Thursday that it continues to investigate the circumstances surrounding the shooting.
I don't need a badge. Okay.
This is from San Bernardino, California. Police in San Bernardino just shot a young black man in the back and killed him. This is a murder. This comes from Sean King. Look at this. His young brother, Robert Adams, was just 23 years old and is related to several other dear friends of Sean King. Police on the scene said, people on the scene said police lied and said this was a standoff. This was not a standoff. This was a brutal execution. One officer appears to have shot him at least 9 times in the back. Robert was no threat at all. Police rolled up in an unmarked car with tinted windows. A 23-year-old black man was shot by San Bernardino police officers Saturday afternoon while attempting to break up an illegal gambling operation, according to CBS News. Robert Adams is his name. Robert Adams was serving as unlicensed security for the ring when 2 officers hopped out of their unmarked car with guns already drawn. As Adams fled the scene, and I'll show it again. Unmarked car, tinted windows. As Adams fled the scene, security camera footage shows the trigger-happy hand boys opening fire on him, shooting him in the back several times. Friends and family have dropped off candles and flowers at the spot where Adams was shot over the weekend, and they plan to host rallies until they get answers from the police department. Robert had no idea who they were, and in an instant, police jumped out and murdered him. If not for this video, they would have gotten away with this and their lives would have been accepted as truth. Adams' family says that neither officer identified themselves as law enforcement officers and never gave their son a chance to comply with official orders. Within 15 seconds of their initial encounter, the fatal shots were fired. Not to mention he was running away from them. Adams' mother, Tamika King, says, quote, "I can understand if he was a threat to them, but he was not a threat to them. He was running for his life. This is incredibly sad and the family is demanding accountability. The boy ran," says the victim's stepfather, Aldwin King. "The officer hunted him down like a dog. If Adam still had some life in him, the officer probably would have finished the clip. So when do we have justice for that? Let the cops tell it. Adam had a gun and they recovered a weapon on the scene and released a still photo allegedly showing him holding a 9mm Taurus G3C. There is no sign that he threatened the police with the weapon or pointed it in their direction."
A crime alert in the suburbs. Someone driving around
Another fatal shooting at the hands of police towards another black man in Ohio. This footage comes via the Family Soup TV.
Entrance 62 on 2nd Street. Going eastbound, coming up to Sugar right now. Green stop sign, northbound on Sugar. Through an alley just north of 2nd Street from Sugar westbound. Southbound. Stop.
Any unit available to back 227?
227 shots fired. I'm hit. Car 1030. I don't know where I'm hit, but I'm hitting somewhere in the face. 47 down there. Sir, 1030. 47 down there. 240. Make sure you're getting a hold of the city. Subject down, but I'm bleeding. Subject down, but I'm bleeding. We're in an alleyway west of Sugar, north of 2nd Street. We're in an alleyway west of Sugar, north of 2nd Street. They got squad 43. 240.
NAACP Lima chapter president Ron Fales on Thursday described dashboard camera footage of the fatal shooting of Quincy Pritchett, a 43-year-old black man killed after fleeing a traffic stop on 2nd Street last month, as insufficient and incomplete. This is another reason why we need body cameras, and we need them now, Phil said. It's incomplete. We cannot appropriately complete our investigation with what they've given us. Pritchett was killed June 21st outside a 2nd Street home after fleeing from an attempted traffic stop initiated by Allen County Sheriff's Deputy Isaac Ackerman at around 2:30 a.m. The Allen County Sheriff's Office on Wednesday released the dashboard camera footage of the pursuit and shooting.
Of the storm last night is that the mail delivery has returned. We saw postal workers going out delivering mail this morning. Just a couple of minutes ago, people were walking their dogs. They're back on the beach right now, and that's the sense.
Sorry about that little glitch. All right, so Allen County Sheriff's Office on Wednesday released the dashboard camera footage of the pursuit and shooting, but an apparent struggle between Pritchett and Ackerman occurs just outside of the camera's view. Pritchett was killed while Ackerman was reportedly hit by a bullet. The Allen County Sheriff's Office does not equip its deputies with body-worn cameras. So it's essentially just the deputy's word. We don't know if he shot himself. Sheriff Matthew Treglia has previously expressed concerns about the cost of operating equipment and, quote, loopholes in public record laws for body-worn cameras, which he said in a 2020 letter to former mayor David Berger jeopardizes citizens' most basic right to privacy. The sheriff's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment Thursday. While an initial press release from the sheriff's office on June 21st said a preliminary investigation appears to show the suspect, who was armed with a firearm, and the deputy exchanged gunfire, the dashboard camera footage does not clarify whether Pritchett was armed, nor does it show who shot whom. The sound of shots fired cannot be heard on the video either. This is going to do nothing but add to the distrust that already exists between community and law enforcement, Bale said. And the only way you're going to avoid that is to be truthful and present to the community what you have. The sheriff's office turned its investigation over in June to the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation, which will report its findings to the Allen County Prosecutor's Office to determine whether to file charges. When a black teenager died in a house fire during a SWAT raid in Albuquerque, New Mexico last week, he became the new face of alleged police misconduct in a city where cops have long attracted harsh scrutiny. We'll be right back after this. When a black teenager died in a house fire during a SWAT raid in Albuquerque, New Mexico last week, he became the new face of alleged police misconduct in a city where cops have long attracted harsh scrutiny. But the grim episode was made darker by the fact that the 15-year-old's own father was killed by a member of one of the law enforcement agencies involved in the incident. Shella Rosenau, the boy's aunt, said in an interview that the death last Thursday of her nephew Brett hit hard. Their relationship had only been rekindled in the last few years after the teen reached out through Facebook with questions about his father's family. And she wondered if knowledge of his dad's death at the hands of area cops might have factored into his own premature demise. So last Thursday, Albuquerque Police Department and the Bernalillo County Sheriff's Department were pursuing an older man, Quiet Kelly, for alleged violation of parole when the man and the teen went into a house in the city's International District. Cops said Kelly had allegedly violated his parole for armed carjacking and stolen vehicle charges. SWAT became involved in what turned into a standoff, and police sent devices used to introduce irritants into the home on San Joaquin Avenue Southeast where the man had barricaded himself. After a fire ignited, witnesses told reporters that police waited while the fire burned for nearly 40 minutes before Kelly was smoked out and arrested with burns on him. Police say that after they determined the smoke was coming from the house, the standoff ended. It was only then that emergency responders went into the home to look for the minor, identified by police on Sunday as 15-year-old Brett Rosenau. 40 minutes of smoke inhalation will kill anybody. That's common sense, Shella Rosenau told the Daily Beast. So, for them to wait 40 minutes, that's just not right. That's horrible, she said. I believe in that situation, you save a life, and they needed to go in there. I mean, that's their job. They should not have sat back and waited for them to come out. After police extracted the boy from the flames, witnesses told Source New Mexico that his body was left in front of the home. Police said Rosenau died of smoke inhalation. Deja, the daughter of the homeowners unrelated to the Rosenaus, told Source New Mexico that her family was pleading with police that there was a boy still inside. Quote, and they let him die. Burn, she said. Police now say they are investigating whether the fire could have been started by their own devices, similar versions of which have been known to cause fires. The Bernalillo Sheriff's Department referred requests for comment and questions by the Daily Beast to the Albuquerque Police Department. The APD did not immediately respond to requests for comment. Quote, I know many people in our community are hurting right now and appreciate everyone's patience while the incident is thoroughly investigated, end quote, she said APD Chief Harold Medina in a statement released by the department on Sunday. If any of our actions inadvertently contributed to his death, we will take steps to ensure this never happens again. Brett Rosenau's father, also named Brett, was shot and killed on New Year's Eve 2006 by a Bernalillo County Sheriff's deputy while fleeing law enforcement on foot after a traffic stop, according to reporting by the Albuquerque Journal. Cops said the elder Rosenau was shot when he brandished a weapon at the pursuing deputy. Shella Rosenau, who along with her relatives dispute that her brother had a weapon when he was killed, said the shooting had ruptured the family. You know, like, I don't know. It broke up that type of relationship that we could have had, she said. 3 years later, the shooting was ruled justified by a grand jury, according to reporting by the Journal. Although police were quick to state this week that the younger Rosenau was not shot by anyone, the boy's death is the latest of many instances of deaths connected to Albuquerque police. In 2014, the Justice Department found Albuquerque cops engaged in a pattern of practice of excessive force that violates the Constitution and federal law. While the ongoing consent decree that followed was targeted at the local police department, cops said that at least one member of the sheriff's department behind the teen's father's death was also on hand at the raid. I will be posting links to all of these articles in the comments, so don't worry about that. Here's some articles from Democracy Now! In Buffalo. The white 18-year-old gunman charged with killing 10 black people in a racist mass shooting at a Buffalo supermarket has pleaded not guilty to 27 counts of federal hate crime charges. Attorney General Merrick Garland has not ruled out seeking the death penalty in the case, even though President Biden promised as a candidate he would work to end capital punishment. In Brazil, far-right President Jair Bolsonaro held a meeting Monday with dozens of diplomats, claiming without evidence Brazil's electronic voting system is vulnerable to fraud in October's presidential election. Bolsonaro spoke from Brazil's capital, Brasilia, saying, quote, "What I want the most with the elections is transparency, because we want the winner to be the one who was really voted for. Ours isn't a trusted system because it cannot be audited. It's impossible to make an audit of elections here in Brazil," end quote. Bolsonaro is seeking a second term and is trailing behind Brazil's former leftist president Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, who is currently leading in the polls. Bolsonaro opponents and electoral officials fear he's laying the groundwork to attempt to overturn October's election results. On Monday, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres said the Paris Climate Accord's goal of limiting global temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels was on life support. He is speaking at a climate conference in Berlin, saying no nation is immune, yet we continue to feed our fossil fuel addiction. What troubles me most is that in facing this global crisis, we are failing to work together as a multilateral community. Nations continue to play the blame game instead of taking responsibility for our collective futures. In London, doctors and nurses with Extinction Rebellion on Monday placed stickers on the windows of JP Morgan's offices reading, quote, "In case of medical climate emergency, break glass." The activists then carefully broke the glass panes in an act of nonviolent civil disobedience, and in a statement, Nurse Maggie Fay, who took part in the action, said, quote, "The world is heating because of our use of fossil fuels, and JP Morgan is funding this climate catastrophe. My code of conduct states that I must act without delay if I believe that there is a risk to patient safety or public protection. That danger is here, and it is now." The death toll from an unprecedented summer heat wave in Europe has topped 1,100 as temperature records across the continent are expected to fall again. Fire crews are battling huge wildfires in Portugal, France, and Spain, and also Britain remains under a national emergency alert with temperatures poised to hit 104 degrees for the first time in UK history. Nearly 400. That's the number of law enforcement officials who rushed the Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas on May 24th, after they got word of a mass shooting. A new report from the Texas state legislature cited systemic failures and egregious poor decision-making by the officers who took more than an hour to engage the gunman, who killed 19 fourth graders and their 2 teachers. Investigators determined law enforcement responders failed to adhere to their active shooter training, and they failed to prioritize saving innocent lives over their own safety. Multiple Democratic lawmakers were arrested at an abortion rights rally outside of the Capitol on Tuesday, less than 1 month after the Supreme Court issued a ruling that reversed Roe v. Wade. 34 people arrested, including 16 members of U.S. Congress. Ordinary citizens have been protesting in front of the Supreme Court since the ruling. All right, that is all the news we have for today. Of course, all of your support means a lot, but we can't do it without you. To help us grow and to help keep us going, consider donating to the services that will be at the bottom of your screen. Every dollar goes a long way. If you have any stories that need to be exposed or events that need shared, feel free to email us at theleonblock@gmail.com. You can DM us straight through the Leon Block on Facebook. You can also follow us on social media at all the links at the bottom of the screen as well. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Just search the Leon Block. All right, y'all. That is all the news we have for the moment. Stay tuned for more. This is Revolution News Link.